Hello, friends. This is a preview to my podcast interview with Dr. Dean Radin. He is a renowned scientist. In this interview, I got to ask him about all kinds of things, including what the science is saying about psychic phenomena, premonitions, manifestation, and the possibility of knowing something before it happens in real life. It's a fascinating interview that I cannot wait to share with you. Here's a quick preview.
When we usually think about manifestation, we're thinking about large-scale, real-life things, like I want to win the lottery. In the laboratory, we use much more constrained targets, like bacteria in vitro, or the structure of water, or behavior of photons, things that we have some control over. But we can tell them, because we see effects in those kinds of systems, that in principle, when you tightly focus on a particular kind of outcome that you want, the probability of that occurring increases. It's not a guarantee by any means. And if the initial probability, like I want to win a Powerball lottery that has 1 in 300 million chance to win, by putting your focus on that, you may be able to decrease the probabilities from 1 in 300 million to 1 in a million, which is amazing. It's still 1 in a million. It's not going to happen very often. By contrast, if you say, I'm going to flip a coin and I want it to land heads more often than tails, well, now you have a 50-50 chance. And so if you tweak that just a little bit over the long run, you're likely to actually get the result that you wanted to get, simply because of it's a probabilistic argument. So I think I do believe that our focus, our desires do push probabilities around. A lot of the idea of what's going to happen depends on how clear the desire is. And I moved my office around, so I don't have easy access to this thing right now, but I'll describe what I meant and what I mean. So if you want something to happen that requires that a whole bunch of other people do something, the probabilities go way down very quickly, because now you're talking about manipulating people with free will who need to do something that eventually will end up helping you in some way. So it's possible. I mean, the Book of Grimoire, the Book of Spells, of which there are many, they're all based on that. Almost all of them is that I want somebody to do something. I want power or control in some way, often involving other people. It's possible, but as I said, you're now working against other people who have their own desires. And so there's all kinds of clashing going on. It's much more difficult. Whereas if you want something to happen that can happen, first of all, that would not require other people to be involved in it, especially not to override what their free will may be, then it's more likely to happen. So the lottery is a good example. The lottery presumably there are no people involved. There's something random happening. And in the laboratory, most of what we use as targets are random physical systems for that very reason, that they don't have their own internal will where they want something to happen. So when the ball falls in a lottery, it presumably doesn't care. It just happens. So can we influence that? I think, yeah, we can. So the story I was going to say is a real life manifestation would be, I want a gold-plated Mercedes to show up on my driveway. That's what I want. And so I said, well, that could happen, except that has to come from somewhere. Somebody has to bring it there. Somebody has to give it to you or something. There's a whole series of things that have to happen. So the probability is very low. So you can tweak it, but you still probably won't get it, because you won't be able to push the probabilities up to the point where it's 100% in your favor. So I told this story, and then somebody who watched that interview turned out to be a witch. A lot of witches like this stuff, warlocks, neo-pagans, that sort of thing. So she sent me a gold-plated Mercedes, but it's this big. It's a little tiny car that has wheels that move and doors
tiny,
that open. Yeah, they're tiny, but it's a Mercedes, and it was colored gold. It wasn't gold-plated, but it was a colored gold. And she said that it sent it as a reminder that when you have the manifestation, it has to be crystal clear all the way up and down the line. Because I did get a gold-plated Mercedes, and then I put it in my driveway. A tiny little thing. You can just stick it there. Oh, I got my wish. oops, I forgot to say that it's something that's a real car that I could drive and that it actually belongs to me. Like I want it somehow. You know, you have to fill in all of the rest because otherwise you can get your wish. But as many parables say, there's always unintended consequences if you're not really clear on what it is that you want. So the unintended consequences in this case was, yeah, I have a gold-plated Mercedes. It just happens to be this big.
That's really interesting. I've interviewed a few lottery winners that are very much into manifestation, and you know they've written down the exact amounts, and then they've won those exact amounts. And it's so you're saying that theoretically the science shows that is possible. The correlation of the fact that they manifested and believed and visualized that and felt that this was going to happen, and then it happened.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So sometimes it's coincidence. See, that the reason why I will fall back into the laboratory work is because we know from that is, in principle, it is possible. How it actually turns out in the real world becomes very complicated because it becomes a combination of, it could be coincidence, somebody's going to win. It could be related to this, it could be related to that. And in addition, in the real world, it might be a mind-matter interaction effect, a manifestation causing something. It may be precognition. Like if I go to this store at this time and buy this ticket at this place, that's the one. So I'm not making anything happening. I'm precognizing what I need to do in order to make it happen. So it becomes complicated to think of all of the paths that would be necessary to make the thought of winning a lottery turn into the actuality of it. So in the laboratory, we don't usually study it in that way because we're trying to reduce complexity, not increase it. So maybe in the real world, I think actually in the real world, these effects are stronger, a lot stronger than what we see in the laboratory because we have so many different ways of having things happen, which we don't do in the lab.
Along with this, what would you say that luck is when you flip a coin? Is it?
There is dumb luck and there is smart luck. So dumb luck is the thing just happens. Like maybe nobody cares or nobody's watching or something. Smart luck, you can think of as a way of manifesting what you want. It is always going to have dumb luck underneath it. There's all kinds of things that are just chance. But can you influence how the chance is going? If you can do it even to a very small degree, then it becomes smart luck. And in other words, a kind of a manifestation.
So that was a preview to my podcast interview with Dean Radin. Now, if you want to see the full interview in its entirety, I will put a link to that below. Let me know in the comments, what do you think of this interview? I love checking out your comments. There are new interviews and videos coming soon on this channel. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon to be notified when they come out. As always, thank you so much for watching, and thank you for your support.